I would like to introduce Sally Lone from Coca-Cola Amatil to open this next session. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sam. Thank you. Somebody said to me, what's the panel going to be like? And I said, it's just like Q&A, only much more intelligent and without Tony Jones. So there you go. Sorry, Tony. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I think we've got a wonderful group of panellists today, and I think we've got a whole hour, so we've got plenty of time to explore a lot of issues and plenty of time for your questions as well. You may wonder what I'm doing here. Coca-Cola Amatil is a company that I work for. We've been in Indonesia for the last 20 or so years. A lot of people don't know that. We're probably the biggest Australian company operating in Indonesia. We have 10 manufacturing facilities there, and it's a very close relationship, and our Indonesian earnings grew 20% in the last results that we just presented to the market. We've got a great deal of faith in the Indonesian market. We've seen obviously the stability there in the political system, and the increased economic activity fills us with a lot of confidence. Really interestingly, as far as business is concerned, we had our very first investor tour of Indonesia by fund managers and analysts and brokers, some of our biggest investors, only last year. As I say, we've been operating. We're a public company in Australia, been listed for nearly 100 years, and been in Indonesia for over 20, and we took investors there. And it was last year, and it was the first time many of them had been to Indonesia. They'd been writing about Indonesia and our company for a long time, but first-time visit. Very, very impressive. It was a terrific thing to do, and we will certainly be doing more of that. So without further ado, I'd just like to run through very quickly very short CVs of our panellists. And I'll start with Pak Dumano, who's the president of the Indonesia-Australia Business Council. Pak is president of PT Jababeka Tbk, a publicly listed company, the largest industrial estate developer in Indonesia. So a lot of knowledge about infrastructure and all the things that interest manufacturing companies like ours. You also own infrastructure, power plants, water treatment plants, residential, commercial buildings, etc. Importantly as well, Pak is founded the first international university in Indonesia called the President University, and he's the chairman of Borobudur, which is the largest Buddhist temple in the world, one of the 7 wonders and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. I think it gets something like 2 million visitors a year, Pak, so an incredibly important place. Wonderful, wonderful place for those of you who visited. John Denton is also on my right. John is a partner and chief executive officer with Cause Chambers Westgarth, and that's one of Australia's leading national law firms. John's one of 3 prime ministerial representatives on the APEC Business Advisory Council, chair of ABAC's Finance and Economics Working Group, board member of the Business Council of Australia, and chair of its Global Engagement Task Force. And John was also appointed by the PM and Treasurer as one of 2 Australian delegates to the newly formed B20, the business reference group of the G20. John's got a lot of global experience with business and diplomacy. I first met John many, many years ago when I was a journalist. He briefed me. He was on the Russian desk in the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. I was heading off to Moscow, and since then we've run into each other at other forums, and he's going to be talking about some of the development dollars that are going into Indonesia. Noke Kirayan is the managing partner of Kirayan Partners, a consulting firm specialising in reputation building, stakeholder management, non-financial risk assessment and corporate social responsibility, something I think is essential and crucial for businesses, particularly Australian businesses in Indonesia. I won't bore you with what we're doing there, but suffice to say that it's a very, very important pillar of business in Indonesia. Noke is concurrently President Commissioner of PT Stelco Indonesia Tbk, that is developing oil and gas projects, incredibly important to the economy of Indonesia, and a very, very long experience in the mining industry. To my left, we have Mickey Hewitt. He's a businessman and entrepreneur, an electrical engineer, by formal education. I think you were educated in Holland, in the Netherlands, yes. Mickey. Yes. And you've had a commercial career with a major cable producer in Indonesia in the early 70s, and of course started your own business and have been a businessman and certainly entrepreneur in Indonesia for a very long period of time. And Mickey is also a member of the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the mirror body of the Australian Indonesia Chamber Business Council. David Michaelis, we were just talking about the Brisbane floods. David's on that reconstruction task force, which is a very big job. David is the president of the Australian Chamber of Commerce and Industry here in Australia. He was elected in 2009. David's had an international career in business and the law, and he's certainly worked in a lot of industries that I know, including the fast-moving consumer goods industry with Goodman Fielder, Placidome, Allied Mills, Rothmans and British American Tobacco. And David, welcome to you. And last but not least, to my far right is Ian Buchanan. Ian is the chair of the Australia Pacific Economic Cooperation Committee. He's a senior executive advisor to and former regional chairman of Booz & Company, which is former Booz Allen Hamilton. And I think Ian's had something like nearly 40 years of leadership and advisory experience in Malaysia and Southeast Asia, and many of those in Indonesia, and knows the country extremely well. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I think we'd welcome our panellists today. Thank you for their time. I'd like to start with Pak Damano. He will start our session this morning. We'll just sort of do it fairly back and forth. No interjection from the audience just yet. It's not quite Q&A, but there'll be a good session for questions afterwards. I think one of the things we really want to get down to today is how do we get more business investment from Australia into Indonesia and vice versa. It's something that my CEO, Terry Davis, has talked about when the President, SBY, came to Indonesia in March. How do we get companies to invest in Indonesia and vice versa? How do we get more depth in that area? First of all, if we can look at the economies of our country, Pak Damano, how are Australia and Indonesia's economies complementary to each other? They would seem very different, but how do they complement each other?
Well, I think a lot of things actually is something to do with perception. And there are many things which Australia and Indonesia have got things which are very, very complementary. The number of Indonesian, 240 million. Number of Australian, 20 million. And you have got a lot of technology in Australia, very good standard of education, access to European and American markets. And in Indonesia, we need this kind of technology and also access to the market. Whilst in education, we are lag behind. A lot of natural resources have not been explored. So it's clearly there is a strong synergy between the two countries. Now, the problem with perception is we are always perceived that Indonesia has got a lot of red tapes and possibly overregulated. But to me, that is more about perception rather than reality. If we have the right partners between the two countries, there is then trust and confidence to be built up, and that is the way to go on. Now, as an example, I'm in the township development. I started the business 20 years ago to develop a new town nearby Jakarta. It's now 56 square kilometers, and it has got over 1,500 factories on our side from 30 countries. Now, there is a saying also about the difficulty in buying property in Indonesia. But the fact our company alone is selling 100 hectares per year to foreign companies. So what is this problem about selling 1,000 square meter landed housing, for example? It is all about perception. If we can sell 100 hectares per year, just one company, surely there are a lot of things which have been misperceived. And this is about how to have the right partner to work with. And so much which we can do in the health sector, for example. Indonesian send continuously and increasingly people to have a medical treatment in Perth, in Melbourne, Sydney, Singapore, America, now Kuala Lumpur, Penang, and so on. These are the people who have got money, who can travel abroad. Only 5% of them. If we look at the total population of Indonesia, 140 million, 5% of them is already over 10 million people who are very rich. But there are the strong middle class who are growing. They are the target market for this kind of business. Either it is health service, or it is education, or it is lifestyle, which Australia has got plenty. And the way to do it is find the right partners. And in this case, of course, we have PKPM, the Coordinating Port of Agency of Indonesia, who can help to explain how to do business in Indonesia. But then companies like ours, Jabapeka, and many other industries in Indonesia, we offer so-called one-stop service. We do everything which you do not want to do. That is how to get the license, the regulation with the local government, and so on, which possibly indeed involve a lot of red tapes or even under tables. So these sort of things, the Indonesian business people can help to bridge. You don't have to be involved in those sort of licensing or getting all the red tapes solved. But we can give you all the information in advance. What is the cost of doing of buying land, the cost of getting the license for power plant or water treatment, and so on. A lot of townships in Indonesia do not have water treatment plant to supply potable water, even Jakarta, and also sewer treatment, and still always lacking in power plant. But this can be tackled in a small way, which is to small towns or small area in a clustering approach. So this is the thing which I think a lot of to do with perception. This, I think, where the AIBC and AIBC conferences like this can help a lot to bridge this gap, to have the platform where we, the business people, can meet and we can help each other. Because you do not want to do a business with people you don't understand the culture and difficult to communicate with. So first we must build friendship, then we build trust and confidence to work together. We don't have to involve very much in the bureaucratic sector, but between the business to business people, we can do many things. So this is where the complementary can take place in a much stronger way.
Thank you.